Good morning, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go and pick my mum up from the airport, and on the way we're going to try and take a photo. So literally about to go to the airport to pick up my mum, and just found out that my son has tested positive for COVID. Honestly, what are the chances? So literally, the reason why my mum is coming up is because over Christmas when we went down to the mainland, my sister tested positive, and my mum and dad, because they lived in the same household, at that time the rules were that they had to isolate for 10 days along with my sister. And so when we were down, we hardly saw them at all. So after Christmas, my mum says, well, what I'll do is I'll take a week off my work and I'll come up and visit you. And this morning my son tests positive. What are the chances? So the rules are that he has to be in isolation for 5 days. My poor mum just has arrived. And here she is. I'm not sure this is going to be the break that she was quite intending it to be. So anyway, nothing I can do about it now. She's on the plane, and we're going to head down and get her. The airport where you fly into is at the southernmost tip of Shetland. The airport's called Sumburgh. And down there's a lighthouse, there's a couple of really beautiful beaches. And it's not often that in the morning at this time that I'll get the chance to go down, so I thought I would go down, see if there's any colour in the sky. It's actually quite wintry today. The gritters have been out, snow on the ground. Some of the clouds are quite nice as well, so anyway, we'll go down and see what we can find and see if we can get a nice picture to start off this week. You might be thinking, what's going on here? Well, actually, to get to the airport, you have to drive across the runway. So there's actually a plane just about to land. So they've stopped the runway. And I don't even know if you can see there, but the waves are coming right over the end of the runway, because it feels like when you're about to land in Shetland that you're going to land in the sea. But we'll just have to wait here a little minute until this plane arrives. And then the operator lets you go and you drive across the runway. Pretty cool. That wasn't my mum's plane, by the way. That was far too big a plane for the plane that she's gone on. So down here there's just a beach. I forget what it's called, the beach. There's probably a sign somewhere that tells me. But in the distance you can see Sumburgh Head lighthouse. And there's a little divot in the path. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and get a picture shooting through there with the waves coming in. And see if we can get the lighthouse on top of the hill. It's probably quite a classic shot. There'll be lots of people who have got this before. I'm speaking in the car because it's a bit crazy with the wind outside, so I'm going to change lenses. I'm currently on the Samyang 18mm. I'm going to change over to the Tamron 28 to 200 so that maybe get a bit of lens compression sort of when you're zooming in. And yeah, we'll see how it looks. It might be naff, we might end up with something totally different, but that's my thought in my head right now. Not really sure I got much of a picture there. It was so windy I couldn't keep the camera still. So I doubt it's going to be anything massively spectacular. But sometimes it's just nice to get out with the camera, try. Not really got much more time as well because my mum's plane is just about to land, so I better go round and get her. Anyway, COVID. Not many photos because of the weather. How's your week going? Oh, I also discovered I've got a slow puncture now as well. So on the flight radar, there is my mum's plane, and that is where we are. So I hope they don't miss. Should be on the way. Turn this way. Turn this way. So that's been a bit of an eventful morning. My poor mum coming and arriving at a time when my son and now my wife have both got COVID. So what she said to do is she said to book a flight. She's actually not going to be here for very long, and then she's going to head back down the road. What unfortunate timing. But anyway, while we were on our way down to collect her from the airport, I was able to take this photo here, which I have turned from this to this. And I'm going to show you how I've managed to do that. So if we take a look here at the light and exposure, I've lifted the exposure a little bit, added a tiny little bit of contrast, dropped down the highlights to make that sky look nice and dramatic, lifted up the shadows. As you can see, what I've done is I've used the dunes of the beach just to frame this a little bit with the sea in the background looking rough and choppy, and then with Sumburgh Lighthouse on Sumburgh Head in the distance. Raise the blacks a little bit, and if we go into the curves, then what you'll see is that in each of the curves, I didn't really do anything with the contrast curve. I just added a little bit of contrast within the image, but only +2, not much. I added some red into highlights and took some out of the shadows. In the greens, again, just a little bit more of a dramatic-esque curve in these colour curves. Same with the blue as well, just to add some colour into the different areas of the photos. If we go down to the colour, then I've taken out a little bit of purple and I've added in a bit of vibrance and a little bit of saturation. If we're to go to the colour mix, not changed anything of the reds, the oranges, the yellows, greens, taking the hue down a little bit in the blues just to make that sea look a little bit more aqua, and again, not really done anything else to the other colours. In the colour grading, I have added a little blue to the shadows, and then to the highlights a little orange, a little teal and orange kind of effect that a lot of people use, with only a small amount of saturation in both. Left the midtones as they were. Moving into the effects, I added a little of dehaze, +32, and I always add a vignette just to draw your eye into the picture. Added a little sharpening into the image. I didn't actually mask this time. Often I would mask it, maybe you could have masked it just to make sure the sharpening was only applied to those edges. If we go up to the top here, you'll see how I took this photo. I took it at 1/30th of a second at ISO 800 at 118mm f5. It was on my Tamron 28-200mm lens, so it was zoomed in at 118 to try and get this framed with as I said, the dunes in the foreground, and then with Sumburgh Head in the background. I always enable the lens corrections within this, and if you're to go to the masking, there's a couple of things that I've done to added a mask into this. So I added a mask, I painted a mask over the land and the distance, and if you go into that, you'll see I've raised the exposure and boosted the contrast. Not really done anything to the colours of that. Added a little of texture so it brings out some of the detail in the rocks, and added a touch of dehaze as well. Now this is a tiny little mask that you can't really see unless you zoom right in, but I just added a little mask to where the light was. So all I did with that was raise the exposure and added a lot of warmth into that just to give it that kind of glow. There was actually glow in there in the background that you could see, but
it just made it look a little bit more emphasized within that. And the final thing that I did was just to the sky. And if you look at what I did here to the sky, then you'll see that I also increased the temperature of that, the white balance. I increased the contrast, took the exposure down a bit, got rid of the highlights and the shadows, which just gave it that really gloomy, dramatic effect. It was quite a stormy morning. And that is how we turned that to that. Thanks for watching this week. We'll be back next week with a new photo to edit and hopefully some more Shetland adventures. Have a great week.